all you need to know, the Bloomberg Quint podcast that prepares you for the day's business. Good morning and happy Friday to you. Here's everything you need to know to end your week on just the right note. I'm Alex Matthew and this is the daily morning update from Bloomberg Quint. Today's the 21st of December. The threat of a government shutdown in the US compounded the general sense of negativity following the US Federal Reserve's decision to hike rates midweek. Volatile equity markets whipsawed over the course of the day and eventually ended sharply lower. The president is refusing to sign a short-term spending bill that will allow as many as 9 departments of the US government to continue functioning if the bill doesn't also include funding for a border wall. The S&P 500 ended at a 15-month low, falling 1.6%. The Dow declined 464 points and the Nasdaq fell 1.6%. Asian stocks predictably are trading weak this morning, with all 3 early risers losing ground. And in other big news in the US Justice Department announced indictments accusing Chinese officials of coordinating a decade-long espionage campaign to steal intellectual property and other data from dozens of companies in the US, adding tensions amid the trade war between the two nations. But the one thing that may give Indian investors a sentimental boost today is that crude prices are under pressure. They've fallen further, as much as 5% overnight, on fears that global demand will be hit by the Fed's rate decision and forward guidance. Brent stood at below $55 a barrel last I checked. Back home, the government will set up a panel of experts from the Indian Institutes of Technology and Management to study taxation issues faced by startups in the country. The committee, according to a statement, will make suggestions for recognition of startups under the Startup India program and the premium paid by investors while investing in such companies. And speaking about startups that have made it big, Tencent Holdings has joined Naspers in a $1 billion investment in Indian food delivery service Swiggy. Naspers led the financing, which snagged new backers Hillhouse Capital and Wellington Management, in addition to existing investors DST Global, Meituan Dianping and Coatue. The government and the Reserve Bank of India have decided to set prudential limits on the amount of external commercial borrowings that can be raised by Indian firms. While so far the regulator worked with some internal benchmarks, it has now put out the limits in the public domain. According to a notification issued yesterday, the stock of external commercial borrowings will be restricted to 6.5% of GDP. After putting its road assets and renewable energy business on the block, the IL&FS Group has initiated a process to sell its stake in its education and alternative investment management businesses. In the aviation space, Jet Airways board met yesterday and discussed ways to raise funds without taking an investor on board, as chairman Naresh Goyal doesn't want to give up control in the loss-making carrier that he set up 25 years ago. That's a PTI report. There's a change at the top for Infosys. It has named Bharti Airtel's long-term executive and global chief financial officer Nilanjan Roy as its new CFO. In the banking space, banking operations are expected to be affected today after a union of public sector bank officers has called for a strike, demanding immediate wage revision and protesting the merger of the state-owned banks. Following the killing of police officer Subodh Kumar Singh in Bulandshahr on the 3rd of December, as many as 83 retired civil servants have demanded the ouster of Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. The group has issued an open letter stating that Yogi Adityanath has failed to abide by the constitution. Singh's death, according to the letter, was the most dangerous turn yet in the direction taken by the politics of hate in recent times. With that, it's over to Agam Vakil for the trade setup for the day in India. Good morning, Agam. How's it looking at the end of the week?
Good morning, Alex, and a happy Friday, listeners. Well, let's start off with the SGX Nifty Futures as usual, which is trading marginally in the red, and we are expecting some amount of consolidation, at least as far as opening is concerned, building on what we saw in yesterday's day of trade. But moving on to stocks, right at the top, we have Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. Questive and Indivior are filing a petition with the US Courts of Appeal for a rehearing on the ruling which is granted in favor of Dr. Reddy's related to Suboxone. This is, of course, a Bloomberg exclusive. But moving on, care ratings will be in focus, and perhaps it may see some amount of downside today after it has received SEBI notice for conduct of adjudication proceedings in relation to credit ratings assigned to Infrastructure Leasing and Financial Services, or IL&FS, and one of its subsidiaries. And of course, don't forget, Prabhay Investment Fund has sold 2.84% stake in the company at 986 rupees per share. But Bosch is also likely to see some amount of weakness perhaps after it has decided to close its Karnataka plant between December 28th to 29th due to the reduction in volume seen as a result of decline in customers' requirement. Time Technoplus, on the other hand, is expected to open in the green after it's received a power cable ducts order worth 150 crores from various EPC contractors. And finally, Dhanuka Agritech's board determines buyback of 13% of equity share capital at a price of 550 rupees per share, aggregating to 82.5 crores. Now, these are just some of the stocks that you can watch out for in today's day of trade. But do not forget to go through our morning edition of All You Need to Know on BloombergQuint.com.
Thanks, Agam, and thank you all for listening in. This is Alex Matthews signing off. Have a great day and a lovely weekend ahead.
I hope you enjoyed listening to All You Need to Know. Did you know that you can listen to the show on the IVM Podcast app? On the IVM Podcast app, along with this, we have a number of other shows which you think you'll enjoy. Listen to Cyrus Says with Cyrus Brocha as the host. Listen to Paisa Vaisa with Anupam Gupta. The Scene and the Unseen with Amit Verma, or Shunya One hosted by Shiladitya Mukhopadhyay and myself. Check out the IVM Podcast app to get more talk content that you will enjoy.